everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Redefining Society and Technology podcast. And if you guess the topic today, I will give you the money back because it's free and because I know you're going to be guessing. We're going to talk about AI again. There is a reason for it. I mean, big things are happening in our society, in the way we do things. The things we love, the things we fear, and the things that we live with. And that is called AI, in particular, I think, generative AI. I guess all my listeners, they have at least tried to interact with it. I don't know if you do it as much as I do or other people that use it every day, but at least I hope you got a feeling of what it is, what it can do. One of the big conversation, and I reflect on that all the time, philosophically, sociologically, is what makes us human and stay that way versus, embracing and giving our memories to artificial intelligence, our logic to artificial intelligence, and giving task. I think it's creativity. Emotion, that's what it keeps us human. And that's kind of what we're going to talk about today with Maya Ackerman, Dr. Maya Ackerman, actually. She has a beautiful piano in the background, which inspired me from a creative perspective, of course. And she wrote a book, which will be launching very soon. And it's called Creative Machines, AI, Art, and Us. So, Maya, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Marco. It's such a pleasure to be here.
I have been looking forward for this conversation because you put the word creative, you put machine, you put AI, art, and us, which, humanity. I'm assuming we're not aliens or robots. I don't know. I didn't have you do the filter like, are you a robot before you got here, but I can tell that you're real. So a lot of words that I live by every day, and you put it all together in one title. So let's start with who you are and why you decided to write this book, and then we dive into the topic.
Well, I have been very, very fortunate in my life about 10 years ago, so in 2015, to make a very risky decision to switch my research field as a first-year professor. I was at Florida State University, and I decided that I'm going to switch to this little-known field called computational creativity. And I was told by my employer that it's not something I'm supposed to do. It's not what I was hired for, to do this unpopular stuff. But I decided to switch to computational creativity, which was the academic precursor to generative AI. And as a result, at the end of 2022, when generative AI was blowing up, I'd wake up every morning wondering whether I've hallucinated my entire existence.
Pun intended with hallucination, I guess.
First line of my book.
Okay, so you've been looking at this before it was even cool. Well, I mean, AI has been around for a very long time in terms of something that we were aiming to in computer science for sure. We can go back into the 50s with that concept. But now we got the computer power to actually do that, and that's what we are. So how did that choice paid off for you?
It's been a journey. In 2015, the reason that I ended up switching into this field is I was fortunate enough to see Harold Coyne on stage showcasing his system Aaron, showing this beautiful art that his machine made. And then Harold Coyne was screaming on stage, screaming that other people were calling his system creative, but he is a creative one. And I had no clue. I had no idea, no point of view. I knew nothing about the field, but I got mesmerized. I got pulled into this idea. Machine being creative? Is it real? Is it not? Is it really him? And in 2017, I was very fortunate to open one of the earliest generative AI startups in the world called WaveAI, where we build tools to help people write songs. And it was an amazing journey. I mean, I had the pleasure of having investors tell me that this whole direction doesn't make any sense and the generative AI is never going to be a thing. And then, of course, at the end of 22, everything transformed. But it's really not as much about being right, as much as it is about having this really incredible opportunity to have watched and participated in the creation of this field as an insider in both academia and industry, to watch how the transformation happened, which I think revealed to me just as much about this particular transformation as much as about just how the world works. And that's a lot of what I share in the book, but that's really, it's like living a movie on the inside of it, you know?
It is. I think we live in a very exciting time, kind of scary, but very exciting. Then again, maybe that during the Victorian period, scientists felt exactly the same way, you know? Possibly. I mean, you work with what you have and what you know, and it was very revolutionary then. Industrial revolution, a lot of exciting things, but this one is fast-paced. Like, you wake up in the morning and you don't know what the next thing is. ChatGPT 3, 2, 4, 5, thinking, agentic. We were making fun of that before we started this, me coming back from some cybersecurity conference. But the thing that fascinates me is it's a specific, beautiful time where we look at generative AI, and I feel like it's a mirror to our humanity. That's the way I feel. We never talk about ethics as much. We never talk about philosophical aspect of our human being, the biases, the hallucination, and all of it. And I'm like, generative AI is like that because it's learning from us. So I'm gonna stop there, and I want you to start telling me about the book a little bit, and then the big question, but get there whenever you want. Define creativity for me.
Ooh, okay. There is so
Take
much.
your time. You don't have to do it now.
We're going to do it in the order
Yes.
you suggested. So I'm going to drop everybody to the second part of the book, where I start talking about how to understand what's happening and sort of my own vision for the future. And it starts with Carl Jung, who is really one of the fathers of how we understand the human psyche. I think if he were alive today, he would be obsessed with LLMs. He would be constantly going there to try to learn about us through the machine. I mean, look at what happened. We learned how to write. We had the printing press. Then we put up a whole bunch of this knowledge, along with a whole bunch of short form content, let's just say forums and simple little website and social media. We put all of that online. And that felt massive already. And then we created a functioning brain from it. The internet come alive. This collective consciousness, including the collective shadow that Carl Jung have talked about, which was such a big shift in humanity thinking about itself, is now real and palpable, and you can play with it and interact with it. You can talk with humanity's collective consciousness. So a lot of its brilliance and a lot of its genius and a lot of its creativity that irritates us, that makes us uncomfortable, is still ours. Not any one individual's, but like, it's smart because we are smart. It's brilliant because we're brilliant. And so it's called the golden shadow. Kind of the opportunity to be proud is there. But that's not everything, of course. There is also the not golden shadow, the regular shadow. The fact that it's sexist and racist and ageist and everything is. And it's so tempting to be mad, to say, oh, it must be these tech bros who are such horrible human beings, and that's why they're building it like that. But that's not what's happening. It's learning from the data. And in fact, we all of us in the Western world participate in the Western consciousness, and it's been well proven that all of us carry biases to various degrees. And so it's an opportunity to look in the mirror and face ourselves, recognize ourselves through the AI, and do better as humans. Of course, we need to fix the AI, obviously, but it's also an opportunity to do better ourselves. So it's a really interesting cultural moment that I think, goes a lot deeper and further than sometimes the tech companies present it as. And if I may, I'm happy to define creativity to sort of revert back.
Take the challenge. Go for it.
It's supposed to be that question that has no answer. Mm-hmm. But we academics have an answer. We don't claim it to be perfect, but it's very useful. And so creativity, first of all, you can divide it into product and process. I'm going to talk about product. Okay. So something is creative if it is novel and useful in its context. And that's pretty broad. So originality is not enough. Novelty itself is not enough, but it's necessary. Just copying does not make something creative. But it's original by itself is also not enough. You also need it to be useful or appropriate for its context. So if it's an app, if it's a painting, if it's music, what useful means changes, but it doesn't need to have value in this domain. So basically, novelty and value, or novelty and usefulness, is the classic definition, which then allows us to step outside of just human creativity and consider creativity in other contexts.
Very good. Because, of course, when you were talking about the usefulness, before you define it from a artistic creative perspective, I'm like, a Campbell soup can from Andy World, not necessarily useful, but it gives me pleasure, right? So it has a value. It's something that you want to put there. So that's why I think creativity is so hard to define, because it may means a lot to you. It may mean nothing to someone else. Music, we like different genre of music. You talked about being a bad idea when you suggested to get into AI, and I'm thinking like, maybe again, because you have a piano behind you, like a lot of music producer, Beatles were a bad idea. Go back and and ask them what they think about it now, right? There's people that didn't sign up the Beatles. There's people that didn't sign J.K. Rowling because they didn't see Harry Potter, the value in it, but some people did. And look how much value it is, and it's certainly creativity. So it's very hard, and that's why the question is $1 million question to ask, how do we define creativity? Because you define it from an academic perspective. Other people, maybe they define it differently. Maybe there is the unpredictability in the definition as well. The emotion aspect of it.
I think you're referring to divergence here, which is really central to creativity. Almost the whole point of creativity is that you have this vast open space of new possibilities, like the sky, and you don't a priori know what's going to have value, right? Otherwise, it wouldn't be novel, right? So there's like this inherent tension. And it takes bravery and guts and the willingness to fall flat on your face to engage in something creative. So it's very complicated, right? We can try to put something down, but we can never get rid of the magic.
Yeah. And do we have to? I mean, I'm okay to live with the unknown of what creativity really is, as long as maybe it makes me feel something when I see something, or I hear something, or I touch something.
Yeah, and Marco, I think in a way there was this duality that I battled with as well, because I'm a creative person and I really appreciate other people's creative outputs and engaging with other creative people. So it's almost like there is this duality where we have the definitions and the structure and the form in order to help us reason about it, in order to force ourselves to open our eyes to the fact that machines are creative and not use this absence of a definition as a self-defense, as a kind of way to lie to ourselves and make ourselves feel safe, or safer than we really are. But at the same time, Marco, like, that doesn't mean that we're not in awe, that we're not shocked and stunned and infinitely surprised, right? So it's a kind of like, what I try so hard to do in the book is to kind of have the both left and right brain, which is a misnomer, but just to get the point across. I talk about the details to help people think about it and reason about it and really face the reality of what we're dealing with today so we can make responsible decisions. But it's also about soul and heart and humanity. and leaving a lot of room for the magic.
Yep. So I noticed that in the two definition, I throw it there, but it's not necessarily what you listed. The emotion, the experience of, loss, love, sadness, happiness. And when we think about machines, I said that many times. I'm like, well, they're not experiencing that. They can experience it through us. Like I can use generative AI to brainstorm an idea for a kid short story, like magical kid short story, which I write, and be surprised by, holy shit, this is really creative. But then I'm like, did it just fish it from some other creativity out there, or is it really, it's a probability, and I know it's a probability that came up with it. But then sometimes I wonder, and I'm like, I'm really attributing that capacity to the machine to be creative, because it did surprise me. But did it experience it? So the question is, can machine be creative?
Process versus product, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I think it's really important to separate the two. And I think in order for us to be able to reason about it, I think that anything that can lead to a creative product, we need to acknowledge that the process was creative. That's my point of view, right?
Okay.
And so this opens the door to non-human creativity. Okay, so that's kind of like part one and the most important part. Part two,
I see it,
is that we are human beings and our creativity is deeply emotional. Now, emotions are not an emergent property. They're not emergent. We have emotion centers in the brain. We have a whole fear center. We build attachment to other human beings and things and places. We are very, very emotional. We cannot make, like, people whose emotional regions of the brain are damaged can't decide what to wear in the morning. That's how profoundly emotional we are. And so, yes, our creative process is deeply and inherently connected to our emotions and also to our desire to communicate our emotions to each other. And so I think we can sort of simultaneously lean into and sort of marvel and value our creative process without insisting that anything that doesn't follow our process is automatically kind of stripped of the title of being creative. And also, I wanted to make one more little point, is that ChatGPT is designed to be an all-knowing oracle. The main goal is to replace search engines. So actually, its creativity is intentionally kept down. Machines can be far more creative than ChatGPT, and some of them are in different ways.
Okay, keep going.
Keep going. Okay, so
that's like a generative AI that is not at full speed at all. A lot of people think it is. I mean, ChatGPT 5, it's presented as the real thinking machine. I use Claude as well. Like when I put, in an opus mode, it's pretty impressive. But you're saying it's actually on brakes?
There's an inherent conflict between having your machine be an all-knowing oracle and having it be creative. These two things are in conflict. Like, if you want something to always be accurate and tell you the truth, that is literally the opposite of having it be imaginative. Those are different mental processes. And with humans, we sort of like to imagine that humans warn us when they're being imaginative, but it's not actually true. More creative people tend to lie more often to themselves than others. Staying within the boundaries and saying the truth is polar opposite from going outside the boundaries and being creative. And what OpenAI decided to do on purpose is to lean towards the search replacement direction, which means that on purpose, the way that you construct the machine, the way you construct the brain, if you're optimizing for this use case, is polar opposite from the decisions you make if you're trying to build a creative machine. So zooming in, for example, to a very specific use case, lyrics writing. Try using ChatGPT for lyrics writing. It's very consistent, very repetitive, ABAB rhyming pattern. It has this recognizable vibe. It seems really cool the first 2-3 times you use it until you realize that you you can't get anything else. It's kind of locked in this very rigid.
Which I feel the same when you're writing creative as well.
Yes, exactly. It kind of has this template-y, very specific. After a while, like I can't read LinkedIn posts anymore. They're all the same because they're all edited. Like it's designed to be convergent, right? Whereas like the system that we built back in 2020 for lyrics writing, it's still far more creative. It's a tiny model compared to ChatGPT. It's specifically for lyrics, but it's designed to be divergent. And it doesn't try to do life, the universe and everything. It just tries to do lyrics. And there are other examples, like Midjourney, for example, is a very, very creative system, gets really simple things wrong, but every time you get something really creative. So it's please do not measure the creativity of AI with the creativity of ChatGPT.
I love that, and I gotta be honest. It's the first time I talk about this with someone. I had a lot of AI conversations, so that I'm very fascinated by that because it makes me think. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. So I like to think that the hallucination and the imperfection is what actually makes the generative AI more human, because I don't know sometimes where that creative idea came from. It just came. Like, I can't go and read Edgar Allan Poe and ask, how did you come out with the pendulum or the raven? And it's so out of this mind, or Van Gogh and the way that, there is almost some, I'm not saying that they were crazy, but their brain was definitely somewhere different, and that's where the creativity comes from. So when you say, in order to be honestly very creative like the generative AI, you need to unleash it, and I'm sure some crazy stuff's gonna come out, but crazy not in a negative way, in a very innovative, valuable, novelty kind of way. And right now you're right, it's just following the pattern. And you can't expect more than that. Then I need to go in there and be like, okay, you know what? We can go a little bit more fantastic than this. You don't need to be so conservative on that, because I'm not bounded by the rule of reality if you're writing about magical things, or if you're writing music or anything like that. Otherwise, it's just, a repetition. So is that part of your assumption in the book about hallucination are part of...
Hallucinations are my number one most favorite topic in humans and machines. They have this horrible reputation in both, right? Like it's associated with like insanity and manipulation and being bad, because as if being good is following rules and being a good industrial revolution machine that just does everything right for machines and humans. All right.
Perfect, right?
Perfect. Yeah. So it's I almost feel like we're entering a new age where these machines are desperately trying to be imaginative. In fact, that's their power, is that they are imaginative, that they're not just following rules. We're calling it probability derisively, but like, what do you think is happening inside of our skulls, right? The point is that it's designed inherently in a way that explores new possibilities, that goes to new places, and that is our superpower. We need to change how we think about machines. We need to stop wanting them to be all-knowing oracles. It's a dangerous proposition because it gives too much power to those companies. Those companies are literally telling us what to believe if we trust these machines. But if instead we build them and approach them as something to help us see new possibilities, as something that's allowed to be wrong, that's allowed to be imaginative, the power is so much stronger, because that's inherently what this technology is all about. And also for ourselves, maybe it's time that we stop being rigid machines that follow the rules and go to work 9 to 6:30 and then do this and then do that, everything perfectly right. But like a little bit of this pre-industrial age freedom that I think these machines are pulling us towards. So both us and the machines need more freedom to imagine. And I think we need to reclaim the word hallucination as well, because it really captures this idea of going outside of the normal and re-envisioning reality in a way that's going to work better for us today.
And that's exactly all the innovation in art and invention and technology. There's always people that wanted to challenge the status quo. I love working a lot in cybersecurity. I love the word hacking. For me, hacking and hackers is not negative. I've been defending the hacker community, the good guys, for the longer time. I call them cyber criminal because hacking is a superpower. Is looking at the things the way they are and say, could they be different? Could they be better? Can I break this thing and rebuild it from, with the different intention? So that's, I think, is the power of also creation with not just with our brain, but also with our hands and the technology that we build. We wouldn't know how to have a radio if somebody decided to, hey, maybe there are radio waves out there that I can use. I mean, a lot of people might think that's nuts. You're hallucinating, right? And here we are. We created this world that we live in. So I love that. Is that the objective of your book? Is to prove that machine can be creative, or is there what is your objective with this book? Or at least, what was the original idea? Then I know sometimes it just becomes something else.
Yeah, the idea was to take the reader behind the scenes and help them understand what happened, how we got here, and where do we go from here. Essentially help people navigate this age of creative machines in a way that's accessible, inspiring, and ultimately just more honest than a lot of the narrative that we hear today, because a lot of the narrative is heavily PR funded. The companies want us to understand their products a certain way. In the process, it's essential to argue that machines can be creative because it's a starting point and it gives us common language. So I do spend a few chapters kind of walking you through the journey and helping you appreciate the type of non-human creativity that these machines have. Even if some people ultimately prefer to call it something else, I think there is something powerful about getting comfortable with the fact that we are living in an age of incredibly powerful machines with incredible mental capability. And then from there, how do we coexist with them in a way that's actually better for us? Because in the end, we build these machines. We built them, and we build them for humans. So how do we do it in a way that works? And how do we bring all the different stakeholders together to align on a vision that's hopefully, at least in many ways, takes us to a better way of living than to a worse one?
Good point. Which makes me think about a conversation I just had yesterday. So, which means in my time machine right now in my brain, your conversation is going to be published when that one is already beyond. And it's a book called AI-cracy, which is somebody, really smart guy down in Tel Aviv, telling me the story of how he's imagining this government where there are 3 powerful AI machines that are kind of helping to govern society. Not by actually acting and creating the law, but being kind of the receptive receiver points of everybody in the society that wants to put an input in it, and then they will bring it to the government. It's very utopic or dystopic if you want to. But the thing is, there are people out there, and you are one of those, that are thinking about the effect on society. And I think that one of the reasons why they're blocking the power of this and they're kind of like watered down is because, of course, I think we still need to understand what they can do for or to our society, right? If all of a sudden they're creating a very creative reality that has nothing to do with being fact checked, I think it will be very, very, very disturbing for a big portion of our society. So maybe you need one generative AI for something and another generative AI for something else, not just a general one.
Absolutely. This whole coalescing all of them into one is absurd. It's absurd. It's really leaning into this AI as God vision. Mm-hmm. It can do everything. It'll do your videos and your images and answer all your questions perfectly.
And your shrink.
And And your shrink, of course, and your best friend and your lover sometimes.
Yeah.
Like,
You don't want to give that power to anybody or
I know
anything.
it doesn't make any sense. How can this machine be all knowing when we don't agree with each other? What does that even mean? Reality is not that simple, right? Like let's break this down a little bit. I grew up on 3 different continents before the age of 13. And the way World War II is talked about, you would not recognize the historical event. It's completely different. Are any of them lying? Well, maybe a little bit, but not a lot. They're just sharing their point of view, what they consider important. And so what? AI is going to be our arbitrator? Go ask AI about history. You're just getting a Western perspective that the company that made it agrees with. It's not by any sense the truth, because the truth does not exist for most things, for too many things that matter. And so this whole vision of the all-knowing oracle, we have to let go of it, and we have to let go of it quickly. Somebody wants to know what an AI thinks, by all means, right? But just don't take it so seriously, Like, it's going to hallucinate. It's going to express a point of view that agrees with its shareholders. And if you can kind of have this nuanced view, then it can be useful for you. But kind of like we need to loosen the grip on this illusion.
Are we going in the right direction right now? Is there understanding? I mean, you wrote a book to open up that. For most people, and it's presented like a black box. We don't really know. We don't really know how our brain works, right? We're still trying to figure that out. I think it's a good idea if we don't, but that's my perspective. Are we even ready as a society for this kind of interaction with the machine?
I think we desperately need to wake up. I think it's a science fiction narrative of the all-knowing oracle that's going to know stuff better than us. I've had some really disturbing interactions with some people when I suggested that they come up with their own idea, and they looked at me like I'm crazy when I suggested that they come up with an idea without using ChatGPT. Some people are giving up their thinking to this machine because they honestly believe that the machine is smarter than them. It's a kind of theory of mind. And it's something that's been purported in science fiction forever. It's something that investors really picked up, and it's something that entrepreneurs are leaning into, this delusion, this collective hallucination that we're all having, that we've built ourselves a god. Like, wake up. That is not what's happening. There's an AI machine. It's very, very, very smart. It is very creative. We need to give credit where it's due. But it's not an all-knowing oracle, and it's not a god, and it's not smarter than you. Okay? And if we take it down a peg, not by lying to ourselves, not by claiming it's not smart and not creative, but just by admitting that it's powerful technology that's, at least as flawed as a human is. Like it's just a mind. It's a mind. It's not the mind. And if we look at it through this kind of realistic perspective, it's very helpful. It's a delight how useful it is. So users have a lot of power if we're able to look at stuff much more realistically and let go of the delusion. But also the people funding it and the people building it have an opportunity to lean into the real strength of this technology, build technology designed to collaborate with humans, build technology designed to elevate the person instead of foster dependence and making us feel stupid, right? Like you can build technology, and in many ways, ChatGPT does it. A lot of the really good use cases of existing technology ended up leaning into it. But then with the release of ChatGPT, they let go of some of the best use cases. It's fascinating, I think, because there isn't enough clarity about where it needs to go. And it needs to go towards elevating human intelligence and human creativity. And that's how we build a world that's actually better with this stuff.
It kind of concerns me, the fact that we kind of start referring to generative AI as ChatGPT. It's kind of like the Kleenex or the Xerox, or when a brand become the name of the product, usually it's a really good thing for the brand. If you come from branding, you know that. And in this case, I'm wondering if we need a more healthy competition into having multiple generative AI, some better for one thing, some better for another, versus giving this oracle omnipotent role to just one particular machine. I mean, I play with two right now, and I feel relief when I do that. Maybe I need a third one.
Well, we can talk a little bit about the landscape. So fundamentally, so first of all, yes, 100%. We need to let go of the idea that generative AI equals ChatGPT. It's so absurd. It is such an absurd thing, and
thank you. I thought I was crazy saying that.
No, you're 100% right. But then the convergence in thinking doesn't actually reflect the top thinking in our world. It reflects a consolidation of power, okay? It reflects the fact that investors don't understand this technology and can only see one thing. And as a result, where the money gets poured are just copies of each other, okay? We have so many LLMs. They're all copies of each other. They all have the same interface. They're all trying to replace search engines. Are you kidding me? When I joined this field 10 years ago, we had so much more diversity in tools. They were all inside of academia. They didn't have big marketing budgets. But human imagination is so much wider than the way that generative AI is so rigid today. Luckily, we still have some interesting product, like Midjourney is a more divergent system, right? That system, a lot of people who actually make visual content tend to prefer Midjourney because it's more imaginative. But what do the LLMs do? They build image models that are very literal. They try to be as accurate as possible. Mm-hmm. Oh my goodness. Like, why are we trying to just replace search engines? We already have search engines. Why don't we take this stuff and create different stuff that's interesting? There is just for as one more example, Marco, since you're also a musician, there is an amazing system by my late colleague Robert Keller. It's called Improviser. You could play the piano on it or different instrument, and you could trade with it. You would improvise for a bit, and it would improvise with you. It was this amazing tool, and the very first time that I was able to improvise was with it, because it just worked with me. So there are so many applications that are not happening because we're already kind of stuck in this narrow mindset. And it was really amazing to watch how that happened in the industry, because I got to watch it from the inside, and the book talks about that quite a bit. But yeah, Marco, I mean, I love what you're saying. We need to break out of this convergent one way of thinking and build machines that are different from each other. You know, some that leverage whatever fact checking, if that's what you want to do, and some that go more into creativity, more into music, more into different stuff. We desperately need that.
I love that. I think this is a conversation that should hopefully open mind for people, because I do know for a fact from what I know that actually AI works much better when it's more of a tunnel goal, right? I mean, analyze this data, become the best that you can in the research for cancer or screening or geological research or whatever the hell, or music, instead again of this always looking for the easy button. I just have one thing. I just click the button. It's going to write a song for me. It's going to give me the cure for the health issues that I may have. It's going to do the research for me. It's going to tell me who to vote for. That's a recipe for dystopia. Ask me. Again, let's democratize generative AI and have many so that we can have fun with it and retain our differences as well. I mean, our different cultures. I mean, again, what you said, try to get names from or creative input on a name that it's not a Western cultural thing. Like, it's not gonna give you some Chinese or Japanese or like Russian or African name. It's all John and Ellen, or it's just too. All right, well, now I'm like kind of going in my head about my issue that I have with my own ChatGPT or whatever we're gonna call it. So we already went over the 35 minutes, and I knew that because I love this stuff. Who is this book for, and what do you hope people get out of it? That's for you.
If you are curious to better understand what's happening, how we got here, and where we should go, this book will give you a lot of clarity and hopefully help you enjoy this ride a little more and show you how you might be able to participate in it. It's for entrepreneurs, it's for creatives, and it's really a general audience book that's meant to completely, to tell you the truth, completely rewrite this narrative in a way that comes from an informed insider instead of from somebody who has something to gain from the public believing a certain thing.
Love that. Well, Maya, I really love this conversation. I know I'm weird like that, but I'm so glad that there is many other people there, that diverge from the regular everyday's way of thinking and what the news are feeding us, and we kind of look deeper into things. So again, the book is called Creative Machines, AI, Art, and Us, October 14, 2025. So when you listen to this, maybe it's already out or is about to be out. So I'll put a link to connect with you and hopefully to the book, or on Amazon, Wiley, which is the publisher I see, or wherever it is. And just get in touch with Maya, comment on this if you see it on YouTube or if it's on LinkedIn or wherever you get your news nowadays. And I hope there'll be many more conversations like this. I hope you'll come back, because 35 minutes is not enough to talk about this stuff.
This was amazing. Thank you so much, Marco. Quick note, the book is available for pre-order if you see this before the 14th.
Okay. Good.
Yeah. Amazon is a great place to get it, but available in many other places. Really enjoyed our conversation. I did feel that we could keep exploring this. This was so much fun.
I'll invite you back. I'll be happy to do that. Maybe we look at some specific application like the music one. I would love to talk about that too. For everybody else, Redefining Society and Technology podcast, I do have a newsletter. Oftentimes this conversation inspired me to write something about a specific topic. I think that's going to be one of those. And so subscribe, follow me on LinkedIn and wherever else you like to wander online these days. Stay tuned. Maya, thank you again. And everybody else, stay tuned for more. Take care.
Bye-bye.